Back to the book of James, the first chapter and the first verse.
Book of James, chapter 1, verse 1. James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting.
Right, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. Remember, there were 12 tribes within the nation of Israel. So during the time of Yahushua, during the time of the disciples, there were basically the three principal tribes that was left within Israel, the land of Israel, was Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, which was known as the southern kingdom. 10 tribe Israel went over here to the Americas, and you had Israelites that was up in Europe. All right, and some of those Israelites as well was part of the 10 tribe Israel. Okay, but now, and also the ones that was in Europe was also part of the southern kingdom as well. Okay, but now let's go back to the book of Acts and read the first chapter and the first verse once again. I'm sorry, the 10th chapter and the first verse.
Acts chapter 10, verse 1. There was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band.
Right, as a centurion. Now the word centurion, meaning he was the word centurion comes from the word like century, which is 100, meaning he was in charge of 100 men. All right, he had the rank of 100. Okay, and the centurions, this cohort, right, or this basically what Cornelius was and what his family or what his men were. They were basically hired mercenaries that the Romans would hire certain groups to watch over certain areas of their empire. Okay, and this is what Cornelius was. This is what, and they were, like I said, they were Israelites. They were part of the scattered Israel, part of the dispersion of Israel. They were hired by the Roman Empire to watch over certain parts of their kingdom. All right. Give me the book of Hebrews, the 13th chapter and the 24th verse. Because you got brothers that get hung up, because it says that he was of the Italian band. The Italian band, like I said earlier, when you go into the history of Israel, you go into the history of Solomon, you find out that Solomon had seaports all over Europe, specifically in Spain, in Italy, okay, Tarshish. Read on. Read what you got.
Hebrews what?
Hebrews 13 verse 24.
Hebrews 13, verse 24. Salute all men that have the rule over you, and all the saints, they of Italy, salute you.
Right, and all the saints, they of Italy, salute you. Now, who are the saints? We know the saints of the Most High. The saints of the Most High are not the other nation. We know according to Psalms, the 50th chapter, and I believe it's the 5th verse, it says, gather my saints together unto me, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. So we know that the saints of the Most High are not the other nations. All right, go to Acts, the 18th chapter. Give me Acts 18, verse 2.
Acts chapter 18, verse 2. And found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately come from Italy.
Right, lately come from Italy. So Cornelius, who came from Italy, was a Hebrew Israelite, but he was of the Grecians. In other words, he was a Greek-speaking Jew. He was part of the outcasts of Israel. He was part of the dispersion of Israel that was among the other nations. And what you gotta understand as well is that the Israelites at that time, right, the Jews within Judea, they were like, for the lack of better words, they were some racist ass dudes, man. even when it came to their own people. If they wasn't from Jerusalem or from the surrounding lands, they didn't even look at their own people as part of Israel.
Right.
They looked at them as, yo, you've been tampered with, man. You've been living amongst these other nations. You damaged goods. You've been tampered with. You got all type of demons on you. They was looking at them like damn, you coming from Europe? Europe is wicked as hell, man. You know, so they was looking at him in that type of mind frame. Just like the spirit of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. A lot of you, the wicked of the Pharisees and Sadducees. Because you had some Pharisees and Sadducees that were righteous and that believed in Yahweh Shah. But the wicked of the Pharisees and Sadducees that denounced the Messiah, all right, they did and that were hypocrites when it came to the law. They're the same exact ones Yahweh Shai warned us about. And they're the same ones that set forth they really the ones that set forth the culture within Israel at that time. Just like you have today, you have what? These celebrities, these actors, these movie stars and so forth, these rappers. They set forth the culture amongst our people, man. You know what I'm saying? Amongst they're like the trendsetters. So you had the Pharisees and Sadducees, which were the trendsetters of, the common folk, among Israel at that time. And what you got to understand as well is when Yahweh Shai came on the scene, all right, this is why Yahweh Shai, what did he really come to bring to Israel? He came to bring the true faith to Israel, right? Which was not Judaism, because that's what they were practicing. The Pharisees and Sadducees were practicing Judaism. Yahweh Shai came to bring them Hebrewism, to bring them back to what the pureness of the laws of Masha, the pureness of the laws of Moses.
The spiritual aspect.
The spiritual aspect of the law. All right?
He really came to bring a revolution.
Right.
Know? Because he was about breaking traditions that had been set up and fulfilled and brought out and over generations and generations of basic wickedness going on. He came to destroy all that and bring back the spirituality of the law of Moses. That's mainly what he came to do, and bring back the nation of Israel back to the Heavenly Father. Mm-hmm. Through his blood. That's basically what his whole purpose was. Right.
Right. And that's what he taught. And because the Pharisees and Sadducees, they dealt with what? Tradition of men. And it wasn't their tradition of men wasn't, in other words, they were dealing with books that were like commentaries of the law. So you had certain elders, right? Ancient elders. Now these are, you have to remember these were black Hebrew Israelites. And these were brothers that were reading the scriptures, studying the law of Moses, and writing their own commentary on what these laws meant. And a lot of them was going off. But it was taken as truth and was being passed down from generation to generation. So when Yahweh Shai came on the scene, that's why he said, you follow the tradition of men. You follow the tradition of the elders. You don't follow Yahweh. You don't follow the Heavenly Father. You follow the tradition of the elders. Because when it came to the law of when it talks about how the Pharisees, how they were doctors of the law, it wasn't just referring to them like we just read the Bible and you just read the book of Leviticus and you just read in the book of Leviticus. No. They were doctors of the law in that they read commentary books on Leviticus, on every precept, on every verse, on they call it the numbers of certain Hebrew characters that was within the verses. They knew that book inside and out, but a lot of it was wrong. That was the thing. A lot of it it wasn't being revealed in its time. You understand? So they was trying to get the revelation in their time, and it wasn't time for that yet. We getting the revelations now. That's why it tells you in Colossians, it says that even the mystery which hath been hid from ages and from generations is now being manifest into his saints.
And they didn't understand the spiritual aspect of the law either.
Right.
They took everything literal. When Christ came on the scene, Yahushua came on the scene, he totally brought everything on a spiritual level. And he first taught the disciples that, you know. But the Pharisees, the Sadducees, they could not understand that.
Right. They brought, like the brother said, they brought everything on the physical level. That's why when they read the law and it talked about that you to put the law in your frontlets and write it on your hand, what did they start doing? They started wearing a box on their forehead, right? A wooden box, and they will take a scroll. They will write a scroll, a part of the law, and put it inside the box, okay? And then they would take the phylacteries, they would wrap it around their arms. Like we see so-called Jews do that today, right? And we mock them. But they really got that from us. Like a lot of the customs these so-called white Jews do, they got it from us.
The wicked Pharisees,
right?
They got it from the wicked-ass Pharisees.
Yeah, exactly. They got it from the wicked-ass Pharisees, not the disciples of Yahweh Shai. When I say us, I'm talking about they got it from the original black Jews, that they stole the identity from, that they stole the culture and the customs from.
Right.
You understand? That's what I meant to say when I said they got it from us. Because remember, them so-called Jews, when they converted to Judaism in the Khazar Empire, they hired Levites and Jews to go to the Khazar Empire to teach them the faith. And they brought that with them. They brought the phylacteries. They brought the box that they put on their head. Right. You know, and like the brother said, you know, they began to take things literally. When it came to the utterance of the name of the Father, you know, they took when it says thou shalt not take the name of the Lord in vain, they took that literally to the point where they wouldn't even speak the name. They were superstitious in speaking the name. The only one that was allowed within Israel to speak the name was the high priest, and he did it one time, once a year, and that's when he went into the Holy of Holies during the Day of Atonement. Okay.
So this is what you have now. You know, 2,000 years later, you have the so-called Jews that take on these false traditions and ran with it, and then they corrupted even more.
Right.
You know, they corrupted even more. They have all these books and ideologies based on false traditions of men that the wicked Sadducees, the wicked Pharisees committed and basically told to the disciples, told to the congregations.
Right, and they put the what they call their book, or it's really our book. They stole that from us, but it was a book of tradition, which was the the Talmud. The Talmud. Okay, and you got the Kabbalah, the Talmud. The main one is the Talmud. Okay, the Talmud is like all the traditions, and you read that, man, you be like, some of that stuff is bugged the hell out, you know, and that a lot of that stuff came from Black Hebrew Israelites, you know, in the ancient world before Esau took that from us. But that was corrupt. That's what Yahweh Shai came to tell the people, like, don't follow that, man. That's why us in here, we only deal with this book right here. And we deal with, you know, when it comes to the understanding of this book, we go into certain languages, the Hebrew and the Greek and so forth, to get proper understanding. But as far as commentaries and, you know, I stay away from that stuff. You know what I'm saying? I just let the Spirit guide me, and I take the foundation from what I learned from the elders that taught me, and you know, I add on to that. You know, I use their foundation as a guideline, you know, when it comes to this truth. But where we at? Let's read that again in Acts 18 verse 1.
Acts 18 verse 1. After these things, Paul departed from Athens.
I'm sorry, 18 verse 2.
Verse 2. And found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately come from Italy, with his wife Priscilla. Right,
that's good. That's just showing you how you had Israelites living in Italy. Go to Acts 2 verse 5.
Acts chapter 2 verse 5. And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews, devout men.
Right, devout men, go ahead.
Out of every nation under heaven.
So it was out of every nation under heaven. This is during the Pentecost.
Right.
Okay, during the time of Pentecost, and there was three feasts. There was 3 feasts a year that every Israelite or every male was supposed to present themselves to the Lord. They came to Jerusalem from all corners of the world, which was Passover, Pentecost, and what was the other one? The Feast of Weeks. No, the Pentecost is the Feast of Weeks. Yeah. Like your when you dwell in booths, what's the Feast of Tabernacles? Yeah. All right, the Feast of Tabernacles. So those were the 3 high holy days in which Israelites from all corners of the world would come to Jerusalem. All right, and to show you how, you know, the Muslims, they stole that from us, in that they have what, a pilgrimage to Mecca. Mm-hmm. But Israel, we had a pilgrimage to Jerusalem 3 times a year. You know, and it was the same way. If you could make it, you have to make it. If you're able to afford to go and you could go to Jerusalem during those times, you're supposed to go. You know, unless unless there's extreme circumstances where you can't make it. You know, but you was commanded to go. Is there more on that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Devout men out of every nation under heaven. Now when this was noised abroad, the multitude came together and were confounded, because that every man heard them speak in his own language.
Right, that's good. I just wanted to get the main point where it said that there were Jews, devout men out of every nation under heaven. Go to the book of Acts, the 22nd chapter. 22 verse 25. And read to 27.
Acts 22, verse 25. And as they bound him with thongs, Paul said unto the centurion that stood by, Is it lawful for you to scourge a man that is a Roman?
Right. Paul called himself a Roman. Meaning he was what? He wasn't, because we know the Romans were Edomites, so-called white people, but he wasn't white, he wasn't a Edomite. But what was Paul referring to? Paul was saying he was a citizen of Rome. Just like we're a citizen of America. You're a citizen of America, or whatever country you were a citizen of. Paul had dual citizenship. Go ahead.
And uncondemned, when the centurion heard that, he went and told the chief captain, saying, Take heed what thou doest, for this man is a Roman.
Right, he's a Roman. He said, man, take heed what you do to this brother. Or not this brother, but this man. For this man is a Roman. Go ahead.
Then the chief captain came and said unto him, Tell me, art thou a Roman? He said, Yea.
He said, Yea, meaning yes. So this shows you, and where's Rome or Italy? That's in Rome is in Italy. So that's showing you had Israelites that was in Rome, that was in Italy. Okay? Because brothers use or you have some people that use the fact that it said that Cornelius was of the Italian band, and they automatically assume that Italians are white people and that he had to be a white man, a so-called white man. He had to be an Edomite. No, that doesn't mean that, man. You had Israelites, like we're proving right here in the scriptures. You had Israelites that were scattered in all these different nations. Go to the book of Luke, the 3rd chapter and the 14th verse. Luke, the 3rd chapter and the 14th verse. So you have to keep in mind, man, that you cannot put the truth inside of a box. You understand? The truth, this knowledge here is vast, man. And you trying to take a round peg and put it in a square hole. It's not gonna fit. When you dealing with this, you trying to link these other nations up, the so-called white man, the Chinese, the Japanese, the African, the Arab. You trying to link them up when it comes to the New Testament because of the word Gentile. It's an off doctrine. Read on.
Luke chapter 3, verse 14. And the soldiers likewise demanded of him, saying, And what shall we do? And he said unto them, Do violence to no man, neither accuse any falsely, and be content with your wages.
Right.
And as the people were in expectation, And all men mused in their hearts of John, whether he were the Christ or not. John answered, saying unto them all.
That's good. Go back to Acts, the 10th chapter, the 2nd verse. That's not the scripture that I wanted. That's the wrong scripture.
Acts chapter 10, verse 2. A devout man, and one that feared God with all his house, which gave much alms to the people.
Right, so this is referring to Cornelius. It said he was a devout man which gave much alms to the people. Go to Luke 2:25.
Luke chapter 2, verse 25. And behold, there was a man in Jerusalem whose name was Simeon, and the same man was just and devout.
Right. The word devout means like devoted. He was devoted to the law. He was just and devoted. Okay, go ahead.
Waiting for the consolation of Israel.
Right, waiting for the consolation of Israel. This was talking about referring to Simeon. But this just shows you Cornelius was a devout man. Just like Simeon was a devout man. Meaning they were devoted unto the Most High.
And they were Israelites.
Okay? Go to the book of Ecclesiastes. In the Bible. 12 verse 13. So now it said verse 2, right? It says a devout man and one that feared Yahweh with all his house. Now read what you got.
Ecclesiastes 12, verse 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments.
Right, to fear the Most High is to keep his commandments. So why would this so-called white man, right, because y'all claim that he was a so-called white man, why would he be keeping the laws of God? Because he wasn't a so-called white man. He was not an Edomite. This was an Israelite that was keeping the laws of the Most High, but this was an Israelite that was an outcast of Israel, that was looked down upon by the ruling or the Pharisees and the Sadducees of Israel at that time. Go ahead.
For this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil.
Right, that's good. Now go back to the book of Acts and read the 13th chapter and the 16th verse.
Acts 13, verse 16. And it reads, Then Paul stood up, and beckoning with his hand said, Men of Israel, and ye that fear God, give audience.
Right, men of Israel, and ye that fear the Most High, give audience. Who fears the Most High? The Israelites. How do we fear the Most High? Because we follow his law, statutes, and commandments. Go to the book of Psalms. Psalms 22, verse 23.
Psalm 22, verse 23. Ye that fear the Lord, praise him. Right. All ye, the seed of Jacob. Glorify him and fear him, all ye, the seed of Israel.
Right. Who fears the Most High? The Israelites, the seed of Jacob. Esau don't fear the Most High. The other nations don't fear the Most High. They're against the Most High. Okay? Go back to, now go to the book of, let me see. Give me 1 second. Yeah, go to the book of. hold up for a minute. Let me see. Go to or read 2 again. Acts 10 verse 2.
The book of Acts, chapter 10, verse 2. A devout man and one that feared God with all his house.
Meaning what? He kept the laws. Go ahead.
Which gave much alms to the people and prayed to God always.
Right. He gave much alms to the people and prayed to the Father always. What does it mean that he prayed to the Most High always? Meaning he prayed what? 3 times a day unto the Most High. Okay, he prayed evening, morning, and at noon, which is according to the law. When was he praying? He was praying at the exact time that the rest of the nation of Israel prayed to the Most High. When the priest would light the incense and send this incense up to the Most High. This is when Cornelius would pray, along with the rest of Israel. Go ahead.
He saw in a vision, evidently, about the 9th hour of the day.
Right, because that shows you what was the 9th hour of the day. The 9th hour of the day is 3 o'clock our time. Modern time, the 9th hour would be 3 o'clock our time. So what was going on in the ancient world at the 9th hour of the day? The 9th hour of the day is the beginning of the sun going down, or it's what they call well, not the beginning of the sun going down. Salaki, it's the second half of it's the second half of the sun going down. In other words, when is the beginning of the sun going down? Technically, it's at 12 o'clock, right? 12 o'clock noon, the sun is directly above you. So now the sun begins to go down. At 3 o'clock, it's right in the middle of that. That's why they refer to it as the 2 evenings. You ever heard that phrase?
No.
That terminology? The 2 evenings. Okay. Hold that. Go to the book of Exodus, the 12th chapter. All right. And this is why. See the like a lot of brothers think that the Sabbath starts, right? The Sabbath starts when the sun goes down, like when it's completely down. Technically it does, right? But technically, that's kind of like an oxymoron a little bit, right? Technically it does, but technically it begins at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. That's the beginning of this. That's the beginning of the evening. The beginning of the evening is 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Then at 3 o'clock is what they call between the 2 evenings. All right? And then from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock, right, is what our time, I know they mess up the time now because now, it gets dark at 4 o'clock or whatever. But, Exodus, the 12th chapter, and read verse 6.
Exodus chapter 12, verse 6. And he shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month.
Now this is going into the Passover, right? The 14th day of the same month is talking about the first month of the year, which is around April, March, April, which is what they call the month of Abib,
right?
Which is the beginning of the month of Abib means the green ears. It literally means green ears. So in other words, like if y'all know, like they have what they call pussy willows or whatever. When the flowers start to bud and you see the trees, they start, it starts budding.
Yeah.
That was a sign for Israel that this is the beginning of the year. So it wasn't based upon they didn't base the Passover month based upon last year's Passover month. You understand? They based it upon what they physically saw. Because you have to remember, Passover and really all the high holy days of the Bible, you have to understand that Israel, what was Israel? What were our forefathers? What really were they?
Farmers.
They were farmers. We was into agriculture. Okay, we farmed. We knew about animals. We knew about the plants. We knew about the trees. We knew when things were going to bud. This is why Yahweh Shai, in a lot of his metaphors, a lot of his parables, what did he put forth? He put things that they knew. That's why he said, he called them, you have faith as a mustard seed. Mm-hmm. You know, like us now, we lost all that, right? Because you tell somebody about a mustard seed, they don't know what the hell that is. But in the ancient world, we was raised in that. All Israel knew about agriculture. We knew how to farm. You know, we knew how to milk a cow, right? A lot of y'all brothers don't know how to milk a cow. You know, I never milked a cow, but I'm just saying, you know, it's that's what it is. You know, we don't know how to kill a chicken. Y'all see my grandmother and stuff like that do that. You know, raise and kill chickens and all that. But I never did that. I used to look at that shit like she crazy. Right? But anyway, read on.
It says, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening.
Right, in the evening.